Traders, welcome back to the Trading Psychology Fundamental series. In this particular series, we share all the common and key principles for mastering your trading psychology. There have been common challenges that I see many traders face when they want to go off and remove negative emotions from their trading and scale up and become consistently profitable as traders. This Trading Psychology Fundamental series is going to cover each and every single one of those fundamental principles that it's essential to understand as a trader to ensure you accomplish consistent profitability. Now, if you enjoy this series, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Now, in this particular masterclass, we're talking all about the monkey mind, your monkey mind. That is the mind that's responsible for doing the things that you look back on and later regret. So we're going to talk specifically about understanding your monkey mind, and then I'm going to be giving you very actionable insights and very actionable tools to be able to manage it, control it, and get back to your trading plan, which is where you're going to have consistent profitability. Now, the thing about this Trading Psychology Fundamental series is that each of the videos are going to be highly practical. I'm going to be giving you actionable steps that you can walk away from this video, you can implement into your trading, and you're going to see a key return on investment. When you sit down and watch this 20-30 minute video, however long it is, I want to ensure that every single one of you is walking away with a true return on investment, a true actionable insight you can make. So in this masterclass, we are talking all about your monkey mind. Now, let's summarize and analogize your mind, and we're going to talk about it in terms of the two yous. Let's say, for example, and for sake of analogy, you have two yous. You've got your monkey, you've also got your human. Now, what I'm going to do in this particular, or the first few slides, I'm going to describe the monkey, the human, the differences, and then towards the end, we're going to talk about the problem and the solution you can put in place. And I'm going to give you a very actionable tool that you can implement to manage and control your monkey mind and put your human back in charge. Now, your monkey is what is referred to as your amygdala when we talk about the actual physical makeup of your brain. The monkey, the amygdala, is the emotional and survival part of your brain. It's what's responsible for fear and greed and your emotions, guilt, shame, pride, happy, sad, and it focuses on the outcome. The monkey mind is external. It looks on the external. The difference between humans and animals is that an animal looks at its external environment and it reacts to the external stimuli. It has its amygdala, it has its emotions, its fear and greed as a way to keep itself alive. So you can use this as a bit of an analogy. The animal is the one that's in the wild, that's under attack, that has threats, external threats. And it has a very hardwired amygdala, an emotional response there for survival. Because that emotional response, that fear and greed, that the thing that's responsible for getting your cortisol and adrenaline up is essential for survival. So the monkey only focuses on the external outcome. Is this good, bad, black, white? Is it something that I want to eat, or is it something that's going to eat me? Is it something that's good or bad? And it reacts to its external stimuli to keep itself alive. If it's good, it wants to consume it, it wants to eat it. If it's bad, it wants to avoid it, it wants to run away from it. Okay, that's a key insight that we're going to later bring in. Your human is what's referred to as the prefrontal cortex. It's the more advanced part of your brain. And this is what's responsible for strategic thinking. It's what's responsible for planning and execution. It's what's responsible for sticking to a plan and having a plan in the first place. It's what's responsible not for survival, but for thrival. And it's process-based. It looks internally. It has a strategy, it has a plan, and it has processes that it sticks to and adheres to. That's your prefrontal cortex. Now, every human being, every single individual watching this has both an amygdala and a prefrontal cortex. Now, depending on your level of self-work and emotional management and all that type of stuff, some individuals have higher wired or more heavily wired emotional prefrontal amygdalas, and some individuals who've done a lot of maybe meditation or a lot of the work that I teach, they have heavier wired prefrontal cortexes. And the more and more you stick to the principles I talk about in this YouTube channel, I talk about in some of my programs, the more and more your brain is going to reallocate its resources, its blood glucose and oxygen, to the prefrontal cortex and strengthen that connection through neuroplasticity. Okay, so over time, it's like a muscle, for example. The more you go to the gym, the more you work on training a particular muscle, the more it recruits, the fibers and stuff to grow that muscle. It's no different with the brain. The more you focus on process, strategic thinking, activating the prefrontal cortex, the more you're going to strengthen that pathway and the more likely it is to be in charge. Now, if we think about the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex from an evolutionary standpoint, thousands of years ago, our ancestors were more likely to have their amygdala, their emotional survival part of their brain, activated. Because thousands of years ago, they had real threats around them, like lions, saber-toothed tigers, other tribes wanting to come and take their land, for example, the scarcity of food, and they're having to need to find and hunt food for the day. So thousands of years ago, our ancestors were more likely to be wired to have very strong amygdalas. Now, over time, as society has developed infrastructures and grocery stores and houses and roofs over people's heads, and taking care of a lot of the survival needs, the water, the food, the security for a large part, for majority of people, what's happened is that need for the amygdala and the survival and the emotional response has become less and less important. Now, of course, for some individuals, that's still very, very important nowadays. But for majority of people, I'm going to make an assumption here. If you're watching this video, if you're focusing on your trading and that type of stuff, chances are that you're in a situation where a lot of those survival needs have been taken care of. So what becomes incredibly important is recognizing that the amygdala and the emotional survival response is less and less important for an individual. However, human nature never gets rid of old things. It only builds new layers on top. So if you're a trader right now that's in a position where you've taken care of a lot of these basic needs, food, water, shelter, survival, all that type of stuff, and you're in a situation where your amygdala is still very heavily wired because that survival response is inbuilt within all of us from our ancestors. However, it now becomes a point where you have to learn to quiet that down and put the prefrontal cortex in charge. Because you have to recognize that if you're sitting at your computer wanting to trade and you've got proper risk management, there are very few, if not no risks whatsoever in front of you. So we have to learn to quiet down that survival part of your brain and put in charge the prefrontal cortex, that thrival part of your brain. And really that's what this lecture is all about. It's about quieting down the monkey, the amygdala, and putting the human, the prefrontal cortex, the thrival part of your brain in charge. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's what this lecture is all about. Now, the big problem here is that the monkey, the amygdala, is not a great trader. It's not a great decision maker when we talk about having a plan and wanting to stick to that plan. The monkey is designed for survival. It reacts to the external stimuli like we've just mentioned. What happens is if it sees a threat in front of it, it exaggerates and accentuates that threat. And it makes it bad to a point where it wants to avoid it, it wants to run away from it, or it wants to fight it if it's strong and if it perceives itself strong enough. So that amygdala and that survival response, because of the accentuation of how bad that thing is with confirmation and disconfirmation bias, you're going to have a release of cortisol and adrenaline in your body, in the biochemistry, and that's going to kickstart the fight or flight response. So you're going to want to be either running away or attacking and fighting a threat in front of you. And that's what the monkey is responsible for. It's purely there for survival, to keep you alive. It cannot stick to a trading plan. It won't stick to a plan. What it will do is it will label things good or bad, black or white, and it's going to have fear or greed as a response to either run towards or run away from. That's all it does, which is not what we need to be doing as traders. As traders, we need to have a predetermined edge, put that into a plan, and then focus on sticking to that plan despite the good or bad, despite the win or loss, despite the outcome. So when we talk about transcending the outcome and focusing on the process, the only way you're going to be able to do that is by quieting down the monkey and putting the human in charge. So the monkey is responsible for most of the trading mindset issues. This is why this particular lecture is so important, and the specific tool I'm going to be giving you in this lecture is so important to implement. Because if you do, it takes care of a lot of the trading mindset, trading psychology issues you may be facing. Now, what aggravates this? There are two things that you need to be aware of that aggravate your monkey. So if you're aware of these things that aggravate the amygdala, if you're aware of these things, you can start to mitigate them and put your human more in charge. The first one is unrealistic expectations of the outcome. If you have a particular idea in your mind of what you think the outcome is going to be, it's like dangling a banana in front of a monkey's face, for a form of analogy. It's like teasing them with a banana and showing them this reward in front of them. What's going to happen is one of two things. You're either going to be extremely elated about getting that particular thing. Simultaneously, when they're elated about getting that particular thing, the greed, they have fear, because now they have fear of losing that thing and fear of missing out on that thing. That's where FOMO and fear of loss come from. It's the attachment to the greed. It's the attachment to the reward. And what's also going to happen is if you dangle a banana in front of a monkey's face, and in their mind they've created this idea of the pleasure and the taste and how good and how sweet and how nice it's going to be, and you take that away from the monkey's going to react very aggressively. So too, if you, in your mind as a trader, you dangle this whole idea of the money you're going to make, the percentage you're going to make, the funded accounts you're going to get on a particular individual position, what's going to happen is you're going to have greed over that position. Simultaneously, you're going to have fear of missing out on and fear of the loss and resentment to the loss. And then if it's a loss, if you take that carrot away, that banana away in the analogy, then you're extremely angry, you're disappointed, you're aggressive, right, as a trader. So that's where the pain of losing comes from as well. So it's incredibly important to be aware of your own expectations of the outcome, your own fantasies and positive expectations that you're projecting onto the real market, and have a level of mastery over that, meaning have an awareness of it, and then have tools to be able to ground that, which I'm going to give you. That's step number one. The other thing that aggravates the monkey, which you're going to touch on later in this particular lecture, is, and this is a bit of a mouthful, but unaddressed, subconsciously stored baggage. And that's really just a fancy way of saying, if you've had experiences in the past, let's say, for example, as a trader, if you've had in your mind and you perceive this loss to be very painful in the past, you're going to have a fear of that happening again. Or if you have a very pleasureful win of the past in your mind, and it was very pleasurable, and you made a lot of money on a particular trade in your mind, and you have a lot of pleasure associated to that, you're going to have a greed and a fantasy and an expectation of that happening again in the future. These may all be subconscious. You may not even be aware of why you have that feeling of anger, resentment, fear, or that feeling of joy, elation, and greed as a trader. But I guarantee you it's because of that unaddressed, subconsciously stored baggage. It's these unaddressed experiences of the past that have been logged in your subconscious mind. You've never addressed them. Those are going to aggravate your monkey. They're going to swing you both ways, either into a state of aggravation and fear, or into a state of this elation and joy, which is unsustainable as well. Remember, as a trader, you need to avoid the polarities of good and bad of the outcome, because when you're caught up in the outcome and the polarities, you're not focused on the process. Okay, so we're also going to touch on this briefly, but these are the two key things that you need to be aware of what aggravate or accentuate the monkey, and what you need to address to be able to quiet that down and put the human in charge. Okay, hope this is making sense. So the first solution here, there are going to be 4 key tools I'm going to give you. The first one here is the most important. It's all about managing those expectations that I talked about, managing the expectations and the outcome. Now, I've created a free tool called the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool. This is going to be the first tool in the link in the description. This is also going to be the first tool in the link in the comments. I want each of you guys to go to one of those links, they're both the same, and click it and download that tool. It's going to be completely free. All you need to provide is your email. And that tool is going to run you through. There's going to be 2 videos in that tool. Make sure you watch both those videos, download the tool, and use that tool before every single position you take over the next 2 months. And just watch that tool train your decision making before you take a position you'll literally see you have more control before you take a trade. You'll learn to quiet down your monkey and put your human in charge, in other words. And that tool is going to help you become aware of your expectations that aggravate and accentuate the monkey. It's going to help you quiet those down before you take a position, and it's going to help you put yourself back in charge. It's a very powerful tool. So I want each and every single one of you to go and download that, watch the videos that come with it, and start to implement it every single day. okay? Or every single day you take a trade. So go ahead and do that. The next step here is you also want to have it, and make sure this is more an assumption that you already have a clear process-based trading plan. If you don't already have an edge that's been put into a trading plan, you need to start there. You need to really have your rules laid out step by step so you can stick to a rules-based trading plan before you take a position. If a monkey doesn't have a checklist. It just does what it does. It reacts, right? Whereas a human that ultimately goes off and accomplishes great things, they have very meticulously proven processes that they follow, and they've got a checklist. Have a look at pilots, have a look at surgeons, have a look at Elon Musk and some of these very, very high achievers, what they're doing. They're very planned, they're very precise, right? I would rather have a doctor who studied for however many years they study for, that has their processes and they have their checklists and their tools doing surgery on me than I would a monkey, right? So make sure you have a clear process-based trading plan. It's going to help quiet down the monkey and put the human in charge. Now, a bonus here, you can do some sort of meditation, but keep in mind if you don't address the underlying expectations that come underneath that, then the meditation is going to be useful. You'll be all poised during the meditation, but then what's going to happen is you're going to come to the market, you're going to look at the charts, you're going to set a new expectation. That expectation is going to drive a new set of emotions, and you're going to be out of control again. So the meditation is a good bonus after you learn how to control your expectations that we talked about on the first one, the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool. And the last one is neutralize the subconsciously stored baggage. Now, ultimately, this is what you want to do, because a lot of the subconsciously stored baggage is what drives the unrealistic expectations in the first place. But this is the extent of this is far more detailed. This is where my 12-week program becomes essential if you want to go on and do that. Okay, but to start off, make sure you download that free tool and you start using it before every single trade, and you'll watch yourself, you'll see for yourself. And I want you guys to let me know when you see this, that you really start to have a self-awareness. You learn to quiet down the monkey, put yourself in charge, and make rational, process-based decisions from your prefrontal cortex, not just erratic, crazy decisions as a monkey. Now, the ideal mindset that ideally I try and help traders embody is process-based thinking. And I want to give you an example of what that looks like so you have something to strive towards. Now, does that mean you're going to stick to this every single trade you take? Absolutely not. That's unrealistic to expect of yourself. The truth is, no matter what experience level you're at as a trader, you're going to have both you're going to have your monkey come in sometimes. It's not about completely removing your monkey. Monkey's always going to be there because it's essential for survival. It's essential when you're in a physical body. But what's important is you train your ability to recognize that and manage it and quiet it down. This is why I give you tools to help you replicate thought processes so you know that when your monkey comes back and you have a tool to be able to manage it and quiet it down and you know what's going on. I would rather give you an understanding and a tool than give you an unrealistic expectation saying you can remove your emotions or you can remove your monkey, which is completely ridiculous. You can't and you don't want to, because there's a benefit, there's a purpose for that and for those things. But rather what you want is you want tools to be able to manage, quiet down when it's not essential. Okay, put your human in charge to make rational decisions. So this is ultimately what you want to, the thought process you want to embody. Implementing the solutions will help you manage and quiet down the monkey and put the human in charge. Ideally, you want to get to a point where you're saying to yourself, I don't really care if the next individual trade is a win or a loss. I don't really care about the outcome, right? And you can say it to yourself, but sometimes you don't believe it, right? So by using the tools, it's going to help inculcate this principle and help you actually embody this principle. That's why the tools are so important. I'm taking the next trade because it aligns with my trading plan. I don't care if it's a win or a loss. The next individual trade, I don't care if it's a win or a loss. I know I have an edge over a larger sample space. And if I consistently execute on my trading plan over this large sample space, I know I'm going to be profitable because I have an edge. So this is ideally the thought process that you're moving towards. This is what all the tools and Pascaline will help you do. They'll help you embody this thought process. This is the thought process of what I have seen consistently profitable traders have. This is what the thought process they embody. Now, in summary, the monkey is essential for survival, not thrival. Managing your expectations prior to your trades using that free tool, the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool, is key in helping you do that. It's all about helping you Be aware of your expectations and managing them before you take a trade so you could quiet down the monkey and you can put the human in charge. Having a clear trading plan can help with that. And in fact, it's the first step. Have a clear mechanical trading plan, manage your emotions and show up and consistently execute on that trading plan. And then if you want to, you can also utilize a meditation. I've got a free one on my channel to help you get yourself in more of a prime state. But managing your expectations comes first. And then the transcending the judgment tool on the outcome, this is something I talk about more, it's in the 12-week program, is essential to help you address the subconsciously stored baggage or the subconsciously stored data that drives your expectations. Now let me explain this in a little bit more to wrap up today's video. I want you to imagine that your mind is like a Cartesian plane. You've got a line down the middle which separates past and future. I don't know which way this is going to look in the video, but you got past, you got future. Now, if you have a negative experience in the past in your mind, a resentment in the past, let's say, for example, you took a loss and you're very angry at that loss, that's going to log as a resentment in the past. That resentment in the past is never forgotten. It's just stored in the subconscious mind and it's going to mirror forward into a future fear. You're going to have a future fear of that negative resentment happening again. Okay? So too, on the positive side, you're going to have a positive moment in your mind logged, positive perception logged in your mind of a very pleasurable win. And that's going to mirror forward into a future fantasy of a win. And infatuation mirrors forward into a past infatuation mirrors into a forward future infatuation, fantasy. Or in other words, an expectation. So what you'll probably find is that a lot of the expectations you're forcing onto the market come from unaddressed previous wins that you've been attached to. You've seen other traders do or accomplishments that you're infatuated with. You're going to want to project them onto the market. So when I say transcending the judgment tool, in the 12-week program, I teach a process to go back to those moments in the past and address them, see the other side of them so you can neutralize them and you can transcend the judgment on those so that your decision making in the future isn't affected by your decision making in the past, the moments you've had in the past. But you address the previous judgments in the past, the resentments and the infatuations, so that you're not impacted in the future with your decision making by fear or unrealistic expectations. So that's what I mean by the transcending the judgment tool and the outcome. But you want to start by managing your expectations using that free Bulletproof Your Mindset tool. Implement that for the next couple months and let me know the difference it has in your trading. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please share it with your friends and your trading communities. Let's get this whole idea of trading mindset out there to help traders empower their psychologies, help them overcome the negative emotions they face in their trading, and help them build consistent profitability. Now, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you found this useful, please also like, comment, and subscribe. That helps grow this channel. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.